My name is Margaret, and at 70 years old, I've come to realize that blood doesn't automatically deserve respect. It has to be earned. And when it's denied for too long, the well simply dries up. The morning of my birthday started like any ordinary Thursday. I woke up in my apartment in the city center, where I moved after selling the family home 3 years ago. The sale wasn't financially necessary, it was emotional. Too many memories of birthday parties where no one showed up, of Christmases spent alone while my son Paul chose his wife's family traditions over mine. I made coffee in the French press Paul had given me for Mother's Day 4 years ago, back when he still made an effort. The irony wasn't lost on me, it might have been the last gift he gave me that had any thought behind it. I sat in my chair by the window and waited. Not for greetings or surprise visits. I've trained myself not to expect those. I waited to see just how low the bar would fall this year. The text came at 11:47 a.m. No gifts this year for anyone. We're saving. Happy birthday, by the way. I stared at the message for a long time, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. It wasn't pain. It was recognition. A clear, piercing realization of exactly where I stood in my son's list of priorities. A mother's history. Paul is 38. I know that with absolute certainty because I was present for every one of his birthdays, until he married Donna 4 years ago. I remember the long labor, the complications that nearly took both our lives. His father, Kenneth, was serving overseas and didn't meet his son until 8 months later. I raised Paul virtually alone for the first 3 years of his life. Kenneth returned a different man, distant, more focused on his next deployment than on family. When Paul turned 5, Kenneth requested a permanent transfer to Germany. I chose to stay behind to give Paul stability. Kenneth sent checks regularly. But he never came back for birthdays, graduations, or holidays. When Paul graduated high school with honors, Kenneth sent a card with a $100 bill inside. When Paul finished college with a degree in software engineering, Kenneth called to congratulate him. The call lasted 7 minutes. I was the one who sat up all night when Paul had pneumonia at age 8. I was the one who drove him to soccer practice every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 years. I was the one who helped him through his awkward teenage years, his first heartbreak, and the anxiety of college applications. I worked double shifts as a hospital administrator to pay for his education, turning down promotions that required travel because I refused to leave him alone. And I was proud of the man he became. Truly proud, a smart, successful man earning 6 figures at a tech company. He bought a beautiful home, drove a new car every 2 years, and vacationed in places I'd only seen in magazines. Enter Donna. Then he met Donna. Donna Rodriguez, 28 when they started dating, now 32. Beautiful, with long dark hair and striking brown eyes. She worked in marketing, made decent money, and came from a close-knit California family. On paper, she was everything I should have wanted for my son. The problem started small. Paul began skipping my Sunday dinner invites because Donna's family was in town. He forgot my birthday 2 years ago because he was planning a surprise party for Donna's mother, Amanda. He started spending every holiday with the Rodriguez family. "Mom, you should see how they do Christmas, it's like something out of a movie," he told me. I watched my son slowly drift away. The phone calls became shorter and less frequent. The visits stopped unless I initiated them. And when I did see him, Donna was always there, polite but distant, steering every conversation toward her family's latest adventure or success. Amanda Rodriguez became the center of their universe. Amanda, who was 55, 15 years younger than me, and had clearly never worked a day in her life. Amanda, who lived in a luxury home in San Diego, fully supported by alimony from her ex-husband. Amanda, who expected her daughter and son-in-law to visit monthly, pay for family dinners, fund her shopping trips and spa days. And Paul, my brilliant, successful son, did it all with a smile. Donna's mom had a tough time after the divorce, he explained. She gave up her career to raise the kids. The least we can do is make sure she's comfortable. The breaking point. 3 weeks before my birthday, Paul called to tell me about Amanda's latest crisis. Donna's mom is really struggling. Her divorce agreement is being challenged, and her lawyer thinks she might lose the house. We're thinking of helping her out with a loan. How much? I asked. 50,000. Maybe 75. Just until it's all sorted. $50,000. More than I'd spent on anything in the last 5 years combined. That's a lot of money, Paul. I know. But family takes care of family, right? You taught me that. Family takes care of family. Those words echoed in my mind for weeks after that call. The truth unveiled. When I received his birthday text, that same cold clarity returned. I walked over to my desk and opened my laptop. Paul's Instagram account was public. The photo had been posted 6 hours earlier. Paul, Donna, and Amanda stood in front of the Eiffel Tower, all three of them beaming for the camera. Amanda was wearing a designer coat. Donna's handbag was unmistakably Louis Vuitton. The caption read, "Mother-in-law gifted us a dream trip. Paris. Family above all. Blessed." They had been in Paris for 4 days. 4 days that included my birthday. Family above all. Blessed. I closed the laptop and smiled. You see, there's something Paul didn't know about his mother-in-law's financial situation. Something even Donna hadn't discovered. I learned it 3 months ago, completely by accident. Amanda Rodriguez wasn't going broke from divorce litigation. Amanda Rodriguez was under investigation by the IRS for 7 years of tax evasion. She had been systematically hiding income from 3 different sources: a successful online handmade jewelry business, rental income from 2 properties in Arizona, and consulting fees from her ex-husband's construction company. The woman posing as a struggling single mom was actually earning about $300,000 a year, and lying to everyone, including her own daughter. But that wasn't even the most interesting part. The most interesting part was this. Amanda was using Paul and Donna's financial support to fund her legal defense. Every family dinner they paid for, every shopping trip they sponsored, every emergency loan, it was all going straight to the law firm helping her hide assets from federal investigators. I picked up the phone and contacted Agent Kevin Walsh from the IRS Criminal Investigations Division. He had been very interested in my information 3 months ago and asked me to reach out if I found out anything else about Amanda's financial activity. The photos from Paris would definitely catch Agent Walsh's attention, especially since Amanda had filed for bankruptcy just 6 weeks ago, claiming she had no assets other than her primary residence. I typed a brief message, attached screenshots from Paul's Instagram, and hit send. Then I poured myself another cup of coffee and settled back into my chair to wait. In 3 days, my son would return from his dream vacation, expecting to slide back into his comfortable routine of supporting his wife's family while treating his own mother like an afterthought. Instead, he was about to learn what happens when you choose the wrong people to protect. The arrest. Agent Kevin Walsh called me 2 hours later. "Mrs. Margaret, this is exactly the documentation we've been looking for. The timing couldn't be better. We've been building a case against Ms. Rodriguez for 18 months, but we needed proof of her current financial condition. The trip to Paris, so thoroughly documented on social media, directly contradicted her sworn statements in bankruptcy court. We'll need you to provide an official statement regarding your financial support of the Rodriguez family," she continued. "Bank records, any conversations you've overheard, documentation of gifts or loans." "I can do better," I said. "I can give you recordings." There was a pause. "Mrs. Margaret, I want to be very clear. We cannot ask you to secretly record anyone. Of course not, I replied smoothly. I'm simply saying that when my son returns from Paris and inevitably calls to tell me about Amanda's latest financial crisis, I'll make sure to put him on speakerphone while I'm in my home office, where I happen to keep my digital recorder for dictating my memoirs. Another pause. Then, your memoirs must be very thorough, Mrs. Margaret. I believe in accurate documentation of family history, Agent Walsh. The final evening. The next morning, I went to the market and bought ingredients for Paul's favorite dish, teriyaki salmon, the one I used to make every Sunday while he was growing up. Then I stopped by the florist and ordered a dozen white roses to be delivered to his house Friday evening, when he returned from Paris. The card read, "Welcome home, son. I'd love to cook you dinner this weekend. We have a lot to talk about. Love, Mom." Paul called me Friday evening. I could hear the fatigue in his voice, but also something else. Excitement, tinged with unease. "Mom, thank you for the flowers. They're beautiful. And yeah, I'd love to come for dinner on Sunday. Actually, there's something I need to talk to you about." I turned on my digital recorder and leaned back in my chair. "What's going on, honey?" "It's about Donna's mom. It's worse than we thought. Her lawyers think the bankruptcy might not protect her assets. Now there's some kind of federal investigation." "A federal investigation? That sounds serious." "It is. Amanda's freaking out. Donna's been crying for 2 days. Apparently the IRS thinks Amanda was hiding money, which is ridiculous. You've seen how she lives. She can barely afford groceries half the time." I made the appropriate sympathetic noises, mentally cataloging the lies. "What kind of help does she need?" I asked, though I already knew. "Her lawyers want $100,000 upfront for a defense fund. They say federal cases are complex, expensive. Without proper representation, she could lose everything. $100,000. The number hit me like a physical blow, not because it was shocking, but because it was so expected. "Before you make any major financial decisions," I said carefully, "have you verified the charges against Amanda? Federal investigations don't just appear out of nowhere." "Mom, of course they do. The government goes after innocent people all the time. Amanda's just an easy target, a divorced woman with no connections." "I'm sure you're right," I said. "It just seems like quite the coincidence that the investigation appeared right after she filed for bankruptcy." "What do you mean?" "Well, timing-wise, it's suspicious. Bankruptcy cases are public record. If someone wanted to challenge Amanda's financial claims, they'd now have access to all of her filings. It'd be very easy to compare what she told the court to how she's actually living." There was a long silence. Then, "Mom, you're being paranoid. Amanda doesn't live lavishly. The trip to Paris was a gift from us, remember? We paid for everything. She's been through so much." The truth revealed. Sunday evening, when Paul arrived at my apartment, I was ready. The table was set, candles lit, and the digital recorder discreetly placed beside my water glass. After dinner, I opened my laptop. "Speaking of family," I said, "I wanted to show you some childhood pictures of yours." Instead of baby photos, Amanda's Facebook business page appeared on the screen, years worth of posts about her thriving jewelry company. Paul stared at the screen. "What is this?" "This is Amanda's Treasures," I said calmly. "Your mother-in-law's online business. The one that's supposedly been barely staying afloat for the past 7 years." I scrolled slowly, letting Paul see customer reviews, shipping updates, photos of expensive pieces, hundreds of transactions, thousands of dollars in documented sales. "I don't get it," Paul said. "This must be old." I clicked on the timestamp of the latest post. This was uploaded 3 days ago. While you were in Paris, Amanda was filling orders and shipping jewelry to customers across the country. There's an explanation, I said, switching to a new browser tab. Here's her LinkedIn profile, where she lists herself as a business development consultant for Martinez Construction. That's your father-in-law's company, right? The one paying her $15,000 a month in consulting fees. I watched the blood drain from my son's face. And here, I continued, opening another tab, is her Pinterest account, where she documented her real estate investments, 2 rental properties in Arizona, fully renovated and bringing in about $8,000 a month. Paul stared at the screen in silence. Mom, he finally whispered, where did you get all this? From the internet, Paul. It's all public. Amanda has been documenting her business success on social media for years. I opened the bankruptcy filing where Amanda claimed to have less than $15,000 in assets. Then I pulled up her Instagram, full of photos from Paris. She filed for bankruptcy 6 weeks ago. Swore under oath that she had no money, no assets, no income aside from alimony. Then she took a week-long vacation in Paris and posted it all online. Paul was silent, staring at the screen like a man watching his world collapse in real time. A federal investigation isn't a witch hunt, sweetheart. This is a tax evasion case. Amanda hid income from 3 different sources over the course of 7 years. She owes the government over $400,000 in back taxes and penalties. I opened the final tab. Contact information for Agent Walsh from the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. And tomorrow morning, she's going to be arrested. The final confrontation. Paul jumped to his feet so fast his chair toppled backward. What did you do? I gave the federal investigators information. Information that was already public, just sitting there. No one bothered to look. You turned in Donna's mom. Your daughter-in-law's family. I turned in a criminal, Paul. A woman who systematically defrauded the federal government while manipulating you and Donna to fund her legal defense. Paul started pacing the small dining room, fists clenched. Do you have any idea what this will do to Donna? To our marriage? Do you have any idea what would have happened to your marriage if you lost your house trying to fund Amanda's defense? If you drained your savings to protect a woman who's been lying to you for years? She's family. No, Paul, I'm family. I'm the woman who raised you, who sacrificed for you, who cares about your future. Amanda is a stranger who used you. He stopped and turned to face me. You're jealous. You're jealous because I have something with Amanda that I never had with you. The words hit exactly the way he wanted them to, but instead of the pain he expected, Paul was faced with a woman who had long since stopped being vulnerable to emotional manipulation. You're absolutely right, I said. Amanda gave you something I never could. Paul blinked, clearly not expecting agreement. She gave you the experience of being exploited by someone you love. She taught you what it feels like to be valued only for what you can financially provide. She showed you exactly what it means when family uses family. I stood up and began clearing the plates with methodical precision. For 4 years, you prioritized a woman who sees you as a walking wallet over the woman who sees you as her greatest accomplishment. And tomorrow, you'll learn the cost of that choice. Mom, please, if you reported it, you can undo it. I looked at my son, the man I had raised and loved unconditionally for 38 years, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. I made my choice, just like you made yours, Paul, based on values and priorities. The difference is, mine will protect you from financial ruin. Yours would have destroyed your future for the benefit of a criminal. What about Donna? What about our marriage? What about it? If your marriage can't survive the truth that your wife's mother is a tax fraud, it wasn't much of a marriage to begin with. Paul looked at me for a long time. You destroyed our family, he finally said. No, sweetheart. I revealed what your family really is. Amanda destroyed herself the moment she decided to hide income from federal investigators. I just made sure you didn't destroy yourself trying to save her. He grabbed his jacket and stormed toward the door. I'll never forgive you for this. I followed him into the foyer. I know, I said. And that's perfectly fine with me. Paul turned one last time, and for a brief second, I saw the little boy who used to run to me when he was scared or hurt. But that boy was gone, replaced by a man who had made his choice of loyalty long ago. I hope it was worth it, he said. I thought of the $100,000 he wouldn't lose, the house he wouldn't have to mortgage, the marriage that might actually survive when the truth was exposed, and the future he'd still have, because I protected him from his own misguided generosity. It was, I said, and closed the door behind him. Epilogue, Arrest and Reckoning. Early the next morning, Agent Walsh called me. Ms. Margaret, we executed the warrant at 6 a.m. Amanda Rodriguez is in federal custody. Paul called an hour later. Mom. His voice was empty, exhausted. Amanda was arrested this morning. I know, I said. Agent Walsh called to inform me. They're saying she owes over $400,000 in taxes. They're saying she hid income for 7 years. Donna is devastated. She had no idea. I'm sorry this is hard on both of you, I said, and I meant it. The lawyers say Amanda could face 5 years in prison. 5 years, Mom. And the house in San Diego might be seized as restitution. What about the money you plan to give her? I asked. We can't. Our lawyer says any money we transfer to Amanda now could be considered part of a conspiracy. We could be charged as accomplices if we try to help her financially. The $100,000 Paul had been ready to sacrifice were now safely protected by federal law. Paul, I said carefully, you need to understand something. This investigation began months before your birthday, before Paris, before any of this. Amanda's arrest has nothing to do with how I feel about the way you treated me. There was a long silence. But you could have warned us. You could have told us you knew, before we made plans. Would you have believed me if I came to you 3 months ago and told you Amanda was hiding income? Would you have listened? Another silence. You would have accused me of jealousy and spite, I continued. You would have defended her, just like you did last night. The only reason you see the truth now is because federal agents arrested her with solid evidence. 3 weeks later, lunch with Donna. 3 weeks after Amanda's arrest, I received an invitation that would have seemed impossible a month earlier. Donna wanted to have lunch. We met at a quiet restaurant. Donna looked older than her 32 years, the stress evident in the dark circles under her eyes. Thank you for coming, she said. I wasn't sure you would. I'm always here for my daughter-in-law, I replied. The sentencing hearing is next week, Donna said. 5 years in federal prison plus $800,000 in restitution. $800,000. Amanda's criminal activity was even more extensive than anyone had first realized. How are you holding up? I asked. Better than Paul. Honestly, I think I'm angrier than he is. Donna pulled a manila folder from her purse. My mother stole from me, she said. She stole my trust, my peace, my ability to believe anything she ever told me. But she also stole from Paul and from you. She slid a spreadsheet across the table. I scanned the columns of figures, meticulously documented expenses, groceries, utilities, car repairs, medical bills, and emergency loans. $47,000, Donna said. Over 4 years, we gave my mother $47,000 while she was making $300,000 a year and hiding it from everyone. There's more, Donna continued. I found this in Paul's desk last week. She handed me a small velvet box. Inside was a simple but elegant necklace, a gold chain with a tiny heart-shaped pendant. "He bought it for your 70th birthday," Donna said quietly. "According to the jeweler's notes, he spent 2 hours choosing it. Then he decided not to give it to you because my mother had another financial crisis and needed help with her legal fees." I held the necklace up to the light, watching the pendant catch the midday sun. "Keep it," Donna said when I tried to return the box. "He bought it for you. He chose not to give it to me. He made the wrong choice about a lot of things. But his first instinct was right." I fastened the necklace around my neck, feeling the small weight of the pendant rest against my chest. "Is Paul still angry with me?" I asked. "Furious. But he's also beginning to understand what you saved him from. The financial planner showed us projections yesterday. If we had drained our savings and mortgaged the house for Amanda's defense fund, we'd be financially ruined for the next 15 years. What happens now?" I asked. "Now we rebuild. Paul is in therapy, trying to work through his guilt and anger. I'm in therapy too, learning to trust my own judgment again." "And your marriage?" Donna smiled for the first time since we sat down. "Stronger, actually. This whole experience taught us we're on the same team. Even when we're dealing with impossible situations, we support each other, not our extended families." Final confrontation, the wedding. The following weekend was a family gathering. Paul's cousin was getting married, and there was a reception at a hotel. Paul didn't want me there, he was still too angry. But Donna invited me anyway. "I'll be there," I said. The wedding reception was exactly as awkward as I expected. Paul saw me enter the hotel ballroom, and his face turned pale with shock and fury. Various relatives approached me throughout the evening. Some expressed sympathy over the family drama, others were just satisfying their curiosity about the scandal. Paul avoided me most of the night. But as the reception began to wind down and guests started leaving, he finally came over to my table. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice tight with restrained anger. "Donna invited me. This is my family, Mom. My relatives, my friends. You can't just show up and act like nothing happened." I looked at my son and felt that same cold clarity. "Nothing happened, Paul. A criminal was arrested, fraudulent activity was exposed, and you were saved from financial ruin. Those are facts, not tragedies. You destroyed my trust in my own judgment. You made me question everything I believed about family, loyalty, love. You turned my world upside down. I gave you information. You chose what to do with it. You manipulated the situation. You could have warned me privately, but instead you went to the federal government and made it public. You humiliated me. I protected you, using the only method that would actually work. If I had warned you privately, you would have dismissed my concerns and gone through with your plans. The only way to stop you from destroying your financial future was to make sure Amanda was arrested before you could give her any money." Paul stared at me for a long time. "Do you have any regrets? Any remorse for what you put us through?" I thought about the question seriously. Do I regret protecting my son's financial future? Do I regret exposing a criminal? Do I regret choosing Paul's long-term well-being over his temporary emotional comfort? No, I said simply. I don't regret it. Then we have nothing more to say. Paul turned and walked away, grabbing Donna with a sharp motion and heading toward the exit. I watched them go and felt a deep sense of closure. I did what needed to be done. Conclusion, peace in the decision. Driving home that night, I touched the necklace Paul had bought me for my birthday but never gave me. The pendant felt warm against my skin, a reminder that his love for me still existed somewhere beneath the anger and wounded pride. But I no longer waited for him to rediscover that love. I no longer hoped for reconciliation, forgiveness, or gratitude. I had learned something valuable from all of this. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is the one that goes unrecognized and unappreciated. Sometimes, protecting someone means accepting that they will hate you for it. Amanda Rodriguez was serving a 5-year prison sentence, and her victims were finally free from her manipulation. Paul and Donna's marriage was stronger, their finances were safe, their future secure. My son will never thank me for saving him from financial ruin. He will never apologize for choosing a criminal over his own mother. He will never acknowledge that my actions were driven by love, not revenge. And I was completely at peace with that reality. At 70, I had finally learned to choose myself first, to act based on my own judgment, not my son's approval. To prioritize what's right, not what's easy. It cost me my relationship with Paul, but it saved his future. It was a trade I would make again without hesitation. So that's my story. That's how I learned that sometimes love means making choices that destroy relationships in order to save a life. Paul thinks I betrayed him, but I saved him from betraying himself. He'll understand one day. Maybe when he's my age. Maybe when he has to protect someone he loves from their own poor judgment. Or maybe he never will. Either way, I sleep well at night knowing my son has a secure future, even if he has no relationship with his mother. Sometimes, real love looks exactly like that, cold, calculated, and completely unforgivable.